Welcome to Unbox Your World, the podcast where philosophy meets tech. In each episode, we're connecting the dots between philosophy, technology, society, science, and progressive thought. And together with brilliant minds across the world who dare to challenge the way we think and live in today's society, we are unboxing our minds one episode at a time. I am Ria Salting. I am a tech professional during the day and a philosopher at night. So let's get started. Let's unbox ourselves. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Unbox Your World by Futurist. And in the last episode, I did my first ever solo episode. And thank you to those who provided feedback. Actually, one listener told me that he'd rather listen to my thoughts than the expert interviews. So thank you for that. That made me want to publish a second episode. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of about AI right now in the world, and whilst we're talking about it a lot, it is a major shift in the world right now. So yeah, it's quite inevitable to talk about it. And funny enough, I posted an episode a few years ago already on how to teach AI morality and ethics, which back then was a topic that not too many people had actually thought about, but now it has turned into a global hot topic. So yeah, I'm gonna do another AI episode inspired by nature this time, and I am really fascinated by the intelligence of nature, which is, the more you learn about it, the more mind-blowing it is. And funny enough, the word artificial in artificial intelligence kind of indicate the opposite polarity of nature. So I thought maybe the answer or inspiration on how to actually navigate this AI disruption could be found in nature, in the nature's inherent natural intelligence. So I decided to pull together an episode of 5 ways or thought experiments to navigate this AI disruption that we're seeing right now, inspired by nature. So the first one is navigating AI from the anti-fragile perspective. So first things first, what is anti-fragility? Anti-Fragility is based on a book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, which is called Anti-Fragility. And this book has resonated a lot with me. And what he's talking about is that in society, we have become great at building these artificial risk prediction models. But the reality is that we actually cannot predict the risk of these unlikely but immensely big events that we have seen these recent years with, for example, COVID, Ukraine, and just to mention, a few of them. So we cannot, and no risk model could actually ever predict this. So what could be a better way to approach the future? And the analogy that he's using is, if you think of a box that, think of it as a delivery, and it has something fragile in it, like a beautiful crystal bowl or a Chinese plate. And it says, fragile, please do not shake on it. Now, what would be the opposite of that? A lot of people would say robust at the top of their head. But the thing is, robust is actually not the opposite to fragile, because the opposite to fragile would be something that actually gets better when you shake it. So the opposite would be anti-fragile. Please do shake the content of this box. So, and that is really how it actually works in nature. Because, for example, when we go to the gym, we break down our muscle fibers and our muscles grow stronger than they were the day before, as long as we get the possibility to recover and get the fuel we need. And the same thing goes with the vaccines. We put our immune system into distress and it will grow stronger than it was before. So, how can we, instead of trying to predict risk and make artificial risk models, actually set ourselves up for success, and finding ways of being as anti-fragile as possible, just like nature is? And I think an obvious one to think about is, that a lot of people are right now afraid of job displacement, and but by embracing this anti-fragile mindset, how can we prepare ourselves for an unknown future where the focus is on growing stronger instead of mitigation? For example, are you reliant on one job? Are you reliant on one skill only, or on one client only, on one company, or whatever it is? Because the safe job or the safe skill today might actually not be the safe one tomorrow. So, are you too reliant on one thing, or can you diversify quickly? And how can you set yourselves up for success by developing the mindset, by actually thank every single challenge that comes up, as it actually will make you stronger instead of complaining about it or trying to mitigate it? And I think if we look at the industry, one industrial example or industry example is actually a good to take inspiration from is actually the cybersecurity industry, which is by design an industry that is under constant threat and distress, where there's kind of like this constant rat and cat game where the cyber criminals are, well, they're simply trying to constantly break you and find new, creative, and unpredictable ways to get through your security. So the cybersecurity, they really have to stay on top of things, and it's actually one of the industries that is pioneering self-healing systems, so that the cyber defense can grow, adapt, and heal like an organism actually would in real life. So, we could talk about individuality for an hour, and maybe we will do that in a future episode. But my personal belief is that the organizations and the people that embrace the anti-fragile mindset are the ones who will adapt to the future the best. Now, the second perspective I wanted to bring up is the topic that I actually shared in the previous episode. So I will not go into detail about this one, but how about we think of AI from the lens of parenthood, where, this parenting analogy between the creation of AI and a parent giving birth to a new kid is quite interesting. Because as parents, we put a new being into the world, and it's our job as parents to nurture them and to educate them, raise them to make sure that they become good citizens that align with our values. And so it's the same with AI. And there's a lot of thoughts and perspectives that and the details you can go into this, but a few quick ones are, for example, you know you are a parent is responsible for their kids and to raise them, but when does this responsibility end? Is it when they turn 18? Is it when they die? Or is it never? And also kids get other influences, and so does our AI as it interacts with other systems and humans. And where does that responsibility end? That are we responsible for every interaction that the AI or the kid has, or are we not? And and even, for example, if you create AI for good, but it is being misused by someone else, when does that responsibility end? Like, for example, if your kid has a grandkid that is misbehaving, is that your responsibility? And the same thing, with AI. So there's a lot of perspectives to jump into. And if you think that sounds intriguing, then I suggest you go to the previous episode. The third perspective I wanted to bring up is thinking about AI from a biological evolutionary perspective, in particular in relation to ethics. Because, so the thing is, we're debating a lot about AI safety right now and how to make sure we adopt ethical AI practices. But the thing is that ethics is not static. Ethics actually evolves as humans gain new information and engage in debate. So, whilst, you know, ethics have actually evolved over time, and what was once considered acceptable might not be acceptable in line with the societal values today. And I think a very obvious recent example is the LGBTQI rights, where at least in the progressive parts of the world right now, we've updated the perception of thinking about homosexuality as a disease to being something normal, and where they have the same rights as the rest. Um, this has only happened because we've acquired new access to information, and most importantly, there's been a lot of debate, making humans shift perspectives. And I am acknowledging that we're not there yet with LGBTQ rights, and sadly enough, in some parts of the world, we are going the wrong direction. But this is just an example of where ethics and the evolutionary process of ethics does take time. And because it does take time, the question that rises then is really, because the AI is booming at an exponential speed, is, are we advancing AI faster than our own ethics is developing? And if so, how can we keep up? How can we make sure that we keep up the pace of the ethical evolution at the same pace of AI? Now, this is quite a complex matter, but yeah, I think that that is an important one to think of, how we can make sure our ethics is evolving at the same pace. Now, the fourth one I want to bring up is thinking about AI from an ecosystem point of view. And a quick fact: did you know that 1/3 of the world's food production actually depends on bees? So, this is according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States. And they're stating that, something as small as bees, you know, actually 1/3 of the world's food production would actually, would disappear. And so that is quite mind-blowing, that something as small as little bees could have such huge impact. And this is a great example of how one small little effect, well, that might seem like a small little change, can actually have huge ripple effects that might, at first glance, not even be imaginable. And If bees would disappear from the world, there would of course be ripple effects and ripple effects on top of this. Like potential starvation would be an obvious consequence, but around that as well, like what would that mean in terms of, for example, new industries arising? And where would people go? Would they go to the countryside? Would they go to the cities? Where would they go? And would this mean that we would even invent artificial bees? And if so, what material would be needed? Would we even have enough material in the world to supply the production of these artificial bees? And if not, then who would have it? What countries would become the new rich ones? And would that, become the new gold, etc., etc.? So I think you get the picture where I'm getting at. So the analogy of nature's ecosystem is quite good to illustrate this complexity and interconnectedness that we will experience also with AI and its potential impacts, and the ripple effects that we cannot even imagine today. Um, and when it comes to the concerns of AI, there's a lot of obvious examples that we are talking about right now within AI safety, data privacy, ethical behavior of AI, making sure the AI is not biased, etc. And people are starting to get quite aware of these things, and legislation is trying to keep up. But I also want to bring up the perspective of thinking about AI also when you are creating good things, and staying humble about that, about the not so obvious examples. Like, even when you create solutions for humanity that are supposed to be good, what are the ripple effects and ripple effects of those? Um, to stay mindful, to be able to adapt quickly when we do see new effects arising, and yeah, staying on top of adapting to make sure that we can at least try to keep the ripple effects as good as possible. The last and fifth thought experiment I want to bring up is thinking about AI from a religious point of view, where if we go back to humans' nature and basic instincts, actually humans have a basic need or desire to believe in something. Whilst in Sweden right now, which is a very secular country, that need is not as widespread. But still, in the most parts of the world right now, still the majority is still religious. The majority of the world is not secular, like Sweden, for example. And widespread in the world, humans have a strong instinct and desire to believe in a higher power. And this higher power is extremely powerful when it comes to regulating human behavior. When, we cannot oversee what every single human is doing, but if they believe that one day they will face the consequences of everything they've done in their lifetime, that is extremely powerful when it comes to regulating human behavior. So the thought experiment I want to bring up as the last one is basically, how about we trick AI into believing that there does in fact exist a higher power which can oversee everything they do, keeping it in control and making sure that it does behave in a good way. Is that something that is possible to do? Maybe. Well, that was the last thought experiment I am sending over to you today. And yeah, I mean, nature is pretty awesome. Nature has an inherent ability to self-heal. And there are so many different areas to take inspiration from. And I'm happy to hear more of your thoughts on that if you want to share more examples on how to navigate the AI with inspiration from nature. So feel free to comment or send those through to me. And let me know what you thought of this episode. I would be happy to hear your feedback. And if you want to reach out to me or book me for a talk, you can do that at phuturist.se. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in the next episode. That's it for today. Thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. And if you want to read up more about the guest, then you can go to the show notes to get all of the links. And also, if you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter to never miss the latest episode. Thank you for today. See you in the next episode.